I'm ready to slash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And I'm sure, not that I was, super surprised at all, but, pleasantly surprised in a way at the episode of BattleBots this past week of Champions to see free shipping coming out on top and advancing to the Golden Bolt bracket. So I had to have Gary back on because definitely noteworthy, and wanted to kind of circle back and talk about this week's episode.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. It's been a long time.
Yeah, obviously, like, a lot has happened, even though in the scope of when this was actually filmed, it hadn't been that long, but, it's been a while since the first part of the season aired, and now we're getting to see Champions, and it certainly was an exciting bracket this past week, so I kind of want to break down those fights. It seems like so much less, honestly, than, like, what we're used to seeing with the normal season, but it's a lot packed into one episode. So, going back to that first fight, so Mammoth is obviously a very interesting robot to have to fight. It's awkward. You really have to be strategic in how you want to attack them. I really loved seeing just so many flames just going in Mammoth's direction. Because you never know. There's lots of things that could melt. There's a lot that could happen. You might as well put it out there and see, how that goes. What was your main strategy going into that fight?
Yeah, going into the Mammoth fight, we wanted to use the fire as much as possible. I always like, letting Jim hit that fire button as much as he wants to. And I just kind of went out there and just kind of ran around them just to see how quick they really were. And the funny thing with Mammoth is so much weight is up in the structure, up in the spinner, and there's actually not much down on the ground other than the two wheels, and they've got a bunch of, I don't know what they're calling those, ground scraping tusks or something. But yeah, there's not a lot to grab onto. It's not, when you're fighting a more conventional robot, right? It's a very compact. Most of them are actually smaller than free shipping, and so it's a much smaller target to aim at. Whereas Mammoth, you kind of have like, left wheel, right wheel is way over there. Try to get the tail, try to get the tusks. So it's just. But yeah, it moves pretty quick for a big thing, and it was pretty much just trying to hit it wherever we landed. So
Yeah, and clearly, you were successful, and yeah, it's a very difficult robot to fight, but in the end, you were able to get past that, and which led to a couple of really good matches just between two classic robots and things like that. And obviously with the match between you and John Reed, you've both been in the sport for a long time, both very good, in my opinion, at what you both do. And Beta, it can be a very difficult robot to fight, because as we saw against Double Tap, that hammer can do quite a bit of damage. Were you concerned about that? Because I know when I was watching the match, I was like, obviously knowing what happened, but like, if Beta hits the wrong place, like, we could see a giant fireball or something here.
Well, yeah. So going into that fight, pretty much the whole tournament, we were in championship and in the Golden Bolt or Champions. We were severely underweight. And so we had plenty of extra top plates. So we actually wore 2 top plates for the beta fight. But then he went with the skinny hammer You know, the one that's just made of a piece of plate, not the big cylindrical one. And you know, that one doesn't pack as much of a punch because there's just not as much weight there. And funny thing is, after the fight, he did get one hit right in the beginning. We were looking all over the robot and we couldn't tell where he actually hit us. Sorry, John. But yeah, guess it did, you know, must have broken something pretty severely in that first slam against the wall. And that was pretty much it. You know, broke a wheel on the second hit, but you know, I don't think he was, you know, that mattered because he wasn't going to get back on his wheels anyway. So. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's got to be tough, I'm sure, on his end to kind of go out like that, as I'm sure it is for anybody. But
Yeah.
you know, it had to be exciting for you to have won those first two matches and kind of be in a position to go into the Golden Bolt tournament. I mean, at that point, was that something that you envisioned? Because I know something I've noticed from watching a lot of these champions matches is that, you know, there's so many teams that were able to kind of dial it in better than they did during the main season. I mean, did you feel like that was the case for you?
Yeah, well, for us, we were kind of like almost running out of parts at that point. Some other robots, yeah, they were starting to dial it in, work out the bugs. And I kind of noticed this, you know, for season 6, it just seemed like the fights in the slugfests were just so different from the qualifier fights. You know, I don't know what the difference was. Was it the extra, you know, time to develop or to test, or, you know, but yeah, we were working hard and, you know, just taking it fight by fight, not even looking ahead, but saying, oh, if we win, then we could, you know, save this for that. And it's just like we were pretty much just using whatever we had left at that point.
You might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you know, you found yourself up against Gigabyte, which I think, you know, can be a tough match no matter what, but they were looking, I would say, particularly durable during that run that they had. I mean, you know, they took shots from death roll, which that's a very vicious weapon to get hit by. You know, and they just kind of kept going. You know, what were you thinking about how to match up against them? I mean, obviously Gigabyte's been around for a while, but Derek and Cameron, you know, new captains, you know, new people
Yeah.
driving the robot, which is very difficult to drive, but they, you know, done a pretty good job up to that point.
Yeah, with the, you know, Gigabyte is, I imagine, you know, a very difficult robot to keep under control, right? Because if it just is a little bit off balance, not all 4 wheels are on the ground all the time. You know, once you take a hit, you start spinning the whole everything starts spinning around. It's got to settle out before they even know which way to try to go. But yeah, I knew they were working on it. I know it's a tough robot. That shell is pretty indestructible. But you know, just had to do what we what has been working for us every time we go against, you know, either Gigabyte or Megabyte way back when. Just kind of wait for them to spin up and smack them and use that energy against them. So
Yeah, and honestly though, like I thought watching that match, I thought that you drove very aggressively, and to me that seemed to work to your benefit. You know, you
right.
really didn't relent at any point on them, and that's eventually kind of what got you the win. I mean, personally, I thought it was great. I love to see it. You know, yeah, it just, I thought it was a really good, solid win. I mean, obviously you had to feel great about that at the end, and then the possibility of, you know, being in the Golden Bolt, and you never know what happens there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, going back to the Gigabyte fight, I kind of knew we just do what we did in the championship, in the qualifier, you know, we'd be pretty good. Yeah, but I can't, it's still kind of hard to believe that it all worked out, because, um, you know, being aggressive with Gigabyte isn't that hard because, it's one of the more compact bots. It's a full body spinner. It doesn't really matter where you hit it. Same thing's going to happen. You just got to make sure you hit it at the right angle. So, but yeah, going into the golden bolt though, oof. Now that's a tough bracket.
It is. And I mean, I think that at least, from what we've seen so far, obviously there's a couple more weeks to come. I was really pleasantly surprised to see both free shipping and whiplash in there, which yes, have active weapons, but are largely considered control bots.
Right.
I think that again, I think we've talked so much about this season being very meta breaking and seeing robots do things that are unexpected, and that just kind of continued that story for me, to see control bots doing so well.
Yeah. But probably because we're coming from a slugfest, and the ranking would probably put us against one of the former champions. So unlikely to be control bot against control bot, but at least a couple of us are in there to represent.
Yes.
Although free shipping now is kind of less of a control bot.
It is less than what it was. You certainly have added a little bit to it, but I think that the element is still there. Like it's still you. I think to have a robot like that, I mean, you obviously have to be a fantastic driver because you're not relying on some giant weapon to do something or whatever. So I mean, I think that really speaks to you as a driver and Maddie Vasquez as a driver to like that you've had so much success.
Yeah. I mean, that was the whole reason I got into the sport, was for because of the driving. So
that's interesting. Same for me. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has their own part of combat robotics that they enjoy. My favorite part is definitely driving the robots. The building process can be fun, but if I don't ever have to try soldering again in my life, then I'll probably be okay. So
what's wrong with soldering? I solder almost every day.
It's very challenging sometimes for people that don't know how to do it.
It can be. Yeah, if you're not taught, if you didn't have a good teacher, if someone didn't teach you properly, and it's one of those skills where you just keep practicing the same mistake over again. But
I think it's a skill that is challenging to try and learn virtually. Probably in person would be a little bit easier.
Probably.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like that's it just I really enjoyed the episode because I mean, I just think I've always loved free shipping. I mean, because I love flamethrowers, so I'm a sucker for flamethrowers anyways. But to see it have some success was cool. Now I'm curious from your perspective because I mean, you're probably one of the most laid back people in combat robotics that I've talked to. For you, like, was it meaningful? Like, is there a competitive feeling in you for having done that, or is it just you're like, hey, like my robot did some good stuff and I'm happy with that?
No, that's a tough question, right? I mean, we have to be competitive to be there, or else why would you put yourself through that, right? I said once, right? It's a lot more fun to win than to lose. So, and if you win, you get to fight more, and that's why we're all there. But, I don't, let's see what, BattleBots is very different. I know we're there to put on a show, And I know what it takes to be competitive. And I guess we're making the choice to not be as competitive as we could, right? Because in order for us to be more competitive, it would have to take more of our time, more of our efforts, and more of our money. And right now, the team is kind of choosing not to go down that path that a lot of people are, but still be part of the show and still get something out of being there, right? So, and luckily we still are, right? The sport may progress to a level where if we do want to even compete, right, we will have to spend that money, spend that time, and hopefully it doesn't go that way, because that would probably push us out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always said the sport is twofold. If you don't really, if there's no part of you that cares about winning at all, like that you don't want to at least, to have some success to some degree, like that I don't understand. But I also like think if you don't have any fun at all, then what's the point?
Right.
Like there has to be that good balance between being competitive and also having fun, because I think that both are a really important aspect, I think, to most
Right.
people that I know in the sport.
Yeah, because I tell people that building BattleBots is like having another job, right? Well, you don't want to have two jobs that you hate.
Very
One is
true.
enough, right? Not that I hate either or any of my jobs, but I'm just, as an example, you don't want to put so much pressure on yourself to perform or to be successful at something that's just a hobby right now, right? Because very few people are actually making money out of this whole sport. Most of us are just doing it because we like doing it, and we like being there and being part of the excitement, part of the show, um, yeah, being part of the community. Mhm.
Exactly. I mean, the community is such a huge aspect of it. And I think it's, once you get into the community and you do something that, has a positive impact on someone else, whether it be somebody watched you and liked your robot and like got inspired by that, or somebody, thought, hey, you're like a good example of somebody in the sport, whether it be your driving or whatever aspect of it is, that should make anyone feel good, I would think. And I mean, like, so many people that I know in the community speak so highly of you, and so I mean, I think that there's something to that for sure.
Yeah, I'm just being me.
I mean, I have to say, free shipping had one of the most fun and entertaining pit spaces at BattleBots this past
Yeah.
season. So
Yeah. I was really glad they did show that off. That was hilarious. So yeah, in case you haven't seen the episode, right? It was one of the commercial, yeah, one of their little spots before a commercial break, and we were setting up our slushy machine. And if you look closely, I was actually repairing an ice machine that we also have in the pits. Uh,
that's what it looked like.
yeah. So let's see. This year, so season 7, we had the slushy machine. So we had 2 flavors going constantly. I had the ice machine, which makes it's a really cool countertop ice machine that makes nugget ice, which is great for cools drinks down really fast. So we had a mini fridge, of course, microwave, no big deal. 2 massage chairs, and we brought our own 65-inch TV because the ones that they provide us are only 55. So
Those 10 extra inches make a big difference.
yeah. I mean, we're there for over 2 weeks. It's
Oh
our home
yeah.
for 2 weeks. We're gonna bring a little home with us and make it very comfortable.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. I wouldn't blame anybody at all for doing that. It's
Yeah,
long days. It's really
yeah,
long days.
long days. And season 6 was filmed in August, August in Vegas. Very, very hot. So of course, since it was such a success for season 6, we had to bring everything back plus more for season 7. Yeah, and a lot of the crew, um, some of the safety inspectors, I think our pyro inspector was coming by there all the time because they'd have to work outside and come in, cool off, and then go back out there. So we're just, glad to provide that service to everybody.
Absolutely. Now, I think nobody has really heard much for season 8, without getting into, anything that happens in the Golden Bolt, obviously. But I mean, are you planning on any major, changes for season 8? Or I mean, honestly, the bot looked good. Like it really looked good in this episode. So I don't know that you need to do that much to it.
Um, yeah, we're thinking of some pretty major, pretty drastic changes. The basic design for free shipping, um, the frame and the drivetrain, was all based on original Sin, which I ran at RoboGames starting in 2006. And not much has changed since then. I've made it on many different types of tools. Some years I'll use a water jet cutter to make it. Some years I'll use a mill. In the way back in the beginning, all I used was a drill press and a jigsaw to make the frame. But yeah, it's not keeping up, I don't think, structurally with the way the power density and the power in the motors that everybody is using and the amount of energy that they're dishing out with spinning weapons. So we're gonna have to, do some major upgrades once we know that season 8 is gonna happen. But don't worry, it'll be hilarious.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, because I mean, if nothing, free shipping has always been good for really entertaining fights. So I would expect nothing less.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping that we get enough warning so that we can implement all these new changes, because that was another reason not to make major changes season to season. It's just the amount of time that we're given to redesign and re-engineer and fabricate all this new stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not to say that other teams aren't able to do that, but to fit that within everything that all of my teammates and I, what the other things we want to do in life, it's kind of difficult. So
Yes, exactly. People sometimes maybe don't know, like, builders' lives are crazy. And so it is really hard to do all of these things. And I mean, that's really why I think at the BattleBots level, why they're such large teams, and you don't see that so much with the smaller robots, because when you have something that's a heavyweight, it takes a lot of people to make sure that comes together, and you're able to run it at an event like BattleBots.
yeah, I mean, it just takes more people, but then having more people takes more people management. So it's a trade-off. But and then for us, if we tried to get too organized, it takes the fun out of it. And we're just a bunch of guys with common interests and just want to build a robot and be on a TV show. That's all.
Well, I mean, I really look forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out, because I don't even, my mind is gone, and I don't even remember a lot of it. So I think it'll be fun for all of us to see how it plays out.
Yeah. I mean, once the final episode airs, it will have been over a year since it was filmed. So
That is correct.
I can't remember what happened last week. How am I going to remember what happened last year?
Exactly. It really, it seems like it's not that much time, but like when you actually experienced it, it's like that was a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
So but I'm sure that we'll all be anxiously watching and seeing what happens. But I think that no matter what happens, we're going to definitely see some more entertaining robot fighting from free shipping. So definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, there'll be something. There'll be
Well,
something to watch.
for everyone that's watching, keep watching every week to see these fights, and keep watching this show. Follow, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We'll keep having more fun interviews, and we'll see everybody next time on the show.